All right, so here we have labor and material costs for manufacturing two guitar models are given with this table. And then if a total of 3,000 a week is allowed for labor and material, how much of each model should be produced each week to use exactly each of the allocations of 3,000 indicated in the following table? Now, is it possible to use an allocation of 1,600 for labor and 1,400 for materials, of 2,000 for labor and 1,000 for materials, and explain? All right, so I have a little bit of work to do. So let's first let x1 equal guitar A number, and let's let x2 equal guitar B number. So the number of those. Now, since we have cost, let's let K1 equal labor cost and K2 equal material cost. Okay. So now we can write equations with this. And so it's going to be 30x1 plus 40x2 is equal to K1. And we have, that's not a very good 2. 20x1 plus 30x2 equals K2. Okay. And so again, we're just using what we have. So labor is 30 and 40, so 30 and 40, and we want that to be labor costs. And then we had 20 and 30, and that was going to be our material costs. All right. So first things first, it looks like we could write our matrix out, and our matrix in the AX equals B format, it's going to be 30, 40, 20, 30, x1, x2, and that's equal to k1, k2. Okay. And our K1 and K2, that's when we start getting to this 1800, 1200, 1750, 1250, and so on, all this rest of this part. So that means we need to find our inverse at this point here in time. So let's see here. How about let's go and say we have 30, 40, 20, 30, 1001. Okay. And so if we take how about um we could do a we could divide everything by 10, I guess. And then we could also add, or we could just take, let's take a minus row 2 plus row 1. And then with that, let's take a 1/10 of that row 1, and that will give us then what we need. So minus this plus this will give us 10. Then we're going to divide by 10, and that will give us what we need. So that plus that is going to be 10 divided by 10 is 1. That plus that's going to give us 40, or 10 divided by 10 is going to give us 1. That and that is going to be 1, so that's going to give us 1/10. And then that's going to be minus 1, and it's going to be a minus 1/10. All right. And so only do that just because that makes it simpler so I can get that 1 to start with, and I don't have to do anything else. So I can do a couple things in one step. Now that's still going to be 20, 30, 0, and 1. Now I can say, okay, well, let's take minus 20 row 1 plus row 2 and take that over. Now, if I do that, that's going to give me a 10 here again. So I'm going to do the same thing I did here. I'm going to take a 10th of row 2, and that's going to be my new row 2. And I should probably say that's my new row 1. So I'm going to do two steps in one. Now, if I can write this on the next page and not mess up everything, that'll be an ideal thing. All right, so then my first row was still 1, 1, 1/10 minus 1/10. Then I had a 0. Then I had a, let's see, minus 20 plus 20 is 0. And that's going to be a 10 divided by 10 is going to be a 1. And then that's going to be minus we had that, so it's going to be minus 2 divided by 10, so it's going to be minus 2/10 or minus 1/5. And then we have that was going to be a minus 1/10, so it's going to be a plus 1/10 plus that. Better go back, I'm messing up here. So minus 20 times that's going to be 2 plus 1 is going to be 3 divided by that is going to be 3/10. All right, so I think that looks right. Now I need this to be a zero, so minus row two plus row one goes to row one. So that's zero one minus one fifth, three tenths. That's a one, that's a zero. Minus that plus that. So it's gonna be minus two plus one, so that's gonna be a plus two rather, plus one, it's gonna be three tenths. And so that's gonna be, well, let me write here. Three tenths. And then a minus three tenths plus the negative one tenth. So it's going to be minus plus a minus. So it's going to be minus four tenths. So it's going to be minus two fifths. If we reduce that. Okay. That was minus fifths, three tenths. All right. So I think that's going to be my A inverse. All right. So let's write that down here. A inverse is equal to 3 tenths minus 2 fifths minus 1 fifth and 3 tenths. Now we're going to use that in part A. So part A is going to be using it and multiplying times this matrix, and this matrix. Or what we could do is we could be tricky and we could say, okay, well, now we're going to take 3 tenths and negative 1 fifth and negative 2 fifths and 3 tenths and we're going to multiply it by, and we're going to say, okay, well, that was 1800 over 1200, and that's going to be 1750 over 1250, if I remember, and then I don't remember the last one, 1720 and 1280. Okay, so I have a 2 by 2 and I have a 2 by 3. Those are same, so I'm going to get out a 2 by 3. And when I do that, I'm writing on all kinds of weird angles. I'm going to multiply this times this plus this times this, and that will give me this point here. And if I do that, that looks to be 60. And if I then take this times this plus this times this, that's going to be 0. Then next one is going to be this column time or this row times this column. And so that's going to be 25. And that's going to be also 25. And then I'm going to take this row, or my pen go, this row times this column. And so that's going to give me a 4 and a 40. So what this says, this column is going to be guitar A is equal to 60, guitar B is 0. This one says guitar A is equal to 25, guitar B is 25. This one says guitar A is 4, and this one says guitar B is 40. And that will give me the values basically of how many it is if I'm given this weekly allocation. That's how many guitars I can make on each of those, okay, with those allocations. Now, what about if instead we want 1600 and 1400? All right, so let's go one more step. So now we have to write uh, three three tenths minus 2 fifths and then a minus 1 fifth and 3 tenths. And so then we had, what was it again? 1600, 1400. And the other one was 2000 and 1000. All right, so what is going to happen here is all of a sudden we're going to get negative values for guitar production because when you multiply these and add them together, it's not going to work. So we can say no, we're going to get negative guitar production. Okay. And that's not possible. And so we can't do those. So that part B is basically when you start multiplying, you're going to get values that are more negative than they are positive. And because of that, there's no way we can solve those problems because you can't unmake a guitar. All right. So let's stop there and we'll come back for some more.